Some warnings sound dramatic. This one sounds personal, not because it predicts chaos, but because it comes from someone who believes the chaos has already started.
Today when you say this is the scariest time of your life.
Yeah. I've never been more concerned. Again, I grew up during the Vietnam War. I'm the same age as Trump. And this is serious. This is deadly, deadly, deadly serious like we've never seen before. Think about it. You hear all this stuff. Oh, they're toast. Hey, we wiped them out. Yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Let's go back. Let's go back to the Vietnam War. Hey, you lost that war, didn't you? Couldn't beat the Vietnamese? Oh, you lost the Iraq War?
That line does two things at once. It raises the emotional stakes, and it tells you this is not just another market call. Celente is not saying conditions are bad. He is saying the rules that used to keep bad situations contained may no longer hold. Gerald Celente is the publisher of Trends Journal, and for decades, his work has lived at the intersection of geopolitics, markets, and public psychology. In this conversation, he is not just offering a forecast. He is building a chain reaction. War expands, oil spikes, markets crack, currencies weaken, and ordinary people get caught in the middle. This is Synthesize, where we turn long podcast conversations into their most important ideas. Celente's core warning starts with one country, Iran. But for him, this is not just about Iran. It is about what happens when a regional war collides with an overstretched global economy.
For years, months, and weeks, we've been warning that if the United States and/or Israel go to war against Iran, number one, you're going to see oil prices spike to above $100 a barrel to probably settle around $130 a barrel. It will bring down the global economy and the equity markets, and the war will not end quickly. The reason being is that we write, we're political atheists, we don't take sides.
That is the whole thesis in miniature. Higher oil prices are not just a headline. They are like a tax on everything. Transport costs rise, production costs rise, inflation gets harder to control. And once that pressure hits an already fragile financial system, markets stop looking resilient and start looking exposed. Celente believes most people are reacting to the present without understanding the backstory. And in his view, that missing history is exactly why the danger is being underestimated.
People that were overthrowing the Shah. 99.99% of the people had no idea of the United States overthrow of the democratically elected government of Mohammad Mossadegh in 1953. Because Mossadegh had the nerve to say, hey, you know that oil in Iran? It belongs to the Iranian people. No, it doesn't. It wasn't until about 2013 that they finally released the documents. That little clown boy dressed up, smoking a cigar that everybody liked, Winston Churchill, gave us World War I and World War II, Bill couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag, and Kermit Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt's grandson, telegrams going back and forth. Right there, the only newspaper that I know of that reported them was the Financial Times, saying that we have to overthrow the government because Mossadegh had the gall to say, hey, that oil in Iran does not belong to Anglo-Iranian Oil, better known today as BP, or Standard Oil, better known today as ExxonMobil. It belongs to the Iranian people. No.
You do not have to agree with every part of his framing to understand the point he is making. He is arguing that conflicts are often sold to the public as moral emergencies, when underneath them sit much older power struggles over resources and control. In his narrative, today's crisis did not begin this year. It began when foreign powers decided who gets to own what. From there, Celente moves from history to capability. His claim is simple. The people talking casually about defeating Iran are talking as if recent military history never happened.
Logically and scientifically, you're not going to beat them. There are 91 million of them. versus, 7 million in Israel. You don't have to be good to figure this out. We're concerned about going nuclear. Israel says that if they're losing, they have what they call the Samson option, SAMSON, that they go nuclear. They have between 200 to 400 nuclear warheads. Think about this. Here we are, 2026. When I was a kid,
This is where his warning stops being merely economic. He is not describing a contained military action. He is describing escalation risk, the kind where losing becomes too dangerous for either side to accept. And when wars reach that point, rational calculations start shrinking fast. A lot of commentary treats wars like negotiations with deadlines. Celente treats them like collisions between demands nobody intends to meet.
we go to BBC Guardian. We don't hear what everybody has to say. They say that some 90,000 homes, apartments, and buildings have been destroyed in Iran. Iran is demanding that the United States and Israel pay for this damages. It's not going to do it. They're also demanding that Israel has to stop their invasion.
This is his answer to the question, why would it not end soon? Because ending a war is not the same as wanting it to end. If one side wants reparations, another refuses accountability, and both insist on strategic advantage, then de-escalation becomes a word people say on TV while the incentives still point the other way. Then comes one of the sharpest moments in the interview. Not because it is technical, because it is moral. Celente keeps returning to one principle. Evidence should come before war.
Look at the cover of your Trends Journal magazine a few weeks ago. Trump. It was my opinion that they, Iran, were going to attack us.
Yeah.
And we wrote, shove your opinion up your you-know-what. You don't start wars based on opinions. Show us the facts. Hey, I don't have to show you any facts. Don't you know who I am? It's my opinion.
Strip away the anger, and the argument is clear. He thinks modern war rhetoric asks the public to treat suspicion as proof. And once a population accepts that standard, almost any escalation can be justified after the fact. In other words, the real danger is not only the war itself, it is how low the bar has become for selling one. Halfway through the interview, Celente stops speaking like a forecaster and starts speaking like someone trying to tear the mask off a system.
Emails.
So
So if
what's
I
it
go
about?
and get
What's
in-
it really about, Jared? What do they want?
Goes back to overthrowing the government. All right, just look at the facts. As I said for years, you think the United States would have invaded Iraq, Syria, and Libya if their major export was broccoli? Let's go back to Trump. Hey, we got to stop the narco-terrorists.
It is a brutal line, and that is why it lands. He is compressing an entire worldview into one image. Not democracy, not freedom, not civilization. Resources. Whatever one thinks of the simplification, it is effective because it forces the viewer to ask a very uncomfortable question. If the incentives were different, would the moral language sound different too? Up to this point, the conversation is about war abroad. Then it pivots, and this is where the fear becomes domestic. Celente is not only afraid of military escalation, he is afraid of the kind of event that changes what the public is willing to accept overnight.
Because I know you've said this will just create hyperinflation and just destroy us economically, but what drives your fear?
A false flag event, like a 9/11. People forget. I say when all else fails, they take you to war. The market, you go back to your Trends Journal the day of Trump's State of the Union address this year.
Yeah.
Right there in the Trends Journal, we had all the data about how Trump was going down.
This is the emotional pattern break in the interview. The focus moves from battlefields to psychology. Because whether or not you share his suspicion, his larger point is about how crises get used. Fear collapses debate. It makes populations more obedient, more reactive, and more willing to surrender scrutiny in exchange for the feeling of safety. And once fear creates compliance, Celente believes the next phase becomes easier to sell. a redesigned monetary system.
Talk to me about the reset you see coming, because all roads lead to this monetary reset that you.
This is they're gonna go digital. There's no question about it. Trump's be writing about it all the time. I mean, Orwell couldn't come up with a better name than stable coins. I mean, what are you kidding me or what? Look at all these deals going on. Everything's going digital. Everybody's going to go digital.
Wow.
This way they know every penny you spent, what you spent it on, where you spent it. Most important, they get their tax money, and they'll make up something that this digital coin's worth way more than the dollar, and we just got rid of our debt level.
This is not just a prediction about payment technology. It is a prediction about power. His concern is that digital money does not simply modernize finance, it centralizes visibility. Every purchase becomes legible. Every transaction becomes trackable. In that world, money stops being only a medium of exchange and starts becoming infrastructure for control. If war expands, debt rises, and currencies lose trust, then what protects people? Celente's answer has not changed in years.
Down. It's gold and silver spike because a lot of people started playing the markets.
Yes, absolutely.
So they need to cover their losses, so they pull the money out. We're very bullish on gold and silver. It's just beginning. Again, the death of the dollar is before our eyes. Oh, and now, here, again, you can't make this crap up. Let's go back to last February. Not this one, 25.
For him, gold and silver are not trades, they are exits. Not perfect exits, not painless exits, but ways of stepping outside a system he believes is becoming more fragile, more inflated, and more manipulated. Whether or not death of the dollar proves too dramatic, the emotional function of the argument is clear: own something that does not depend on trust in political management. But Celente's outlook is not just about metals. He also thinks the market itself is sitting on a familiar kind of excess, not identical to the dot-com era, but rhyming with it.
Right? What does he know? I'm a general, and I'm in KKR now? Yeah. Okay, got it. Anyway, going on, no, we see a dot-com bust. Way overinvested in these dot-com companies. And as we say, the business of America is war, and the business of China is business. China is investing very heavily in AI. Matter of fact, they just had a big conference there this weekend that's barely not reported in any of the mainstream media in America. All on AI and high tech. Here, go back when Slick Willie brought China into the World Trade Organization.
His point here is less about one stock and more about civilizational focus. He sees America putting enormous energy into war, debt, and market optics, while China concentrates on industrial and technological scaling. That may be too neat a contrast, but as a story about drift, it is powerful. One power is building, the other is distracting itself. By the end, the warning becomes almost biblical in tone. Nuclear risk, hidden escalation, a world where one more strike could redraw everything. But the conversation does not end there.
Out of the news is the Ukraine war. Totally out of the news. Totally. So is a false flag event going to ignite that? Oh, they bombed a nuclear power plant. You don't know what's going to happen. And I'm saying these are the most dangerous times ahead if we don't have peace. Like I said, where are all these religions? How come they're not telling all that?
That line is the summary of the whole interview. Uncertainty is no longer around the edges. It is at the center. The danger, in his view, is not just what leaders plan. It is what nobody can fully control once the chain reaction begins. And then, almost unexpectedly, he ends not with a trade, not with a slogan, but with a discipline.
Last word. A message of peace and hope for the people.
Everybody do the best you can to get in the best shape you can. Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Yes, absolutely. I believe that 100%, right? The attitude and how you face life is a game changer.
That may be the most revealing sentence, he says, because beneath all the forecasts, the real message is about preparedness in the broadest sense. Financial resilience matters, But so does emotional steadiness. So does physical strength. So does inner life. In a world that feels unstable, he is saying survival starts with not becoming unstable yourself. 3 takeaways stand out. First, Celente believes geopolitical risk is no longer separable from financial risk. War is not a headline over here and markets over there. In his view, they are part of the same machine. Second, he thinks the public is most vulnerable not during slow decline, but during sudden shock, the kind of event that makes extreme policies feel reasonable. Third, his answer to instability is not blind panic, it is preparation. Own real assets. Question official narratives. Build the kind of personal resilience that does not disappear when the news cycle turns dark. You can reject parts of his worldview and still feel the force of the question underneath it. What if the systems we think are protecting us are actually the systems becoming most unstable? And if that is true, what does real preparation actually look like before everyone else starts asking the same thing? If this kind of breakdown helps you think differently, you will probably enjoy the next video too.